Turbo Overkill might be the best FPS title of 2023. It takes inspiration from legendary titles like id's Doom and Quake, but add that with some chainsaws and cyberpunk elements and it really becomes its own thing. Turbo Overkill is amazing, and it can definitely contend with the best FPS games on the market right now. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. If you're a fan of FPS games, you will definitely love this game. And if you're not convinced, well, let me tell you why.
Or you could do that, I suppose.
Usually, these types of shooters don't really have that much of a story. Most of the time, they take a backseat for the gameplay. But thankfully, Turbo Overkill improves in certain aspects that makes it stand out from its peers. You play as Johnny Turbo, a badass merc hired by the mega corporation TerraTech. He's been assigned to eliminate a virus called Sin in Paradise City, and before you know it, things turn from 0 to 100 in just a couple of chapters. It's a simple plot that's easy to follow, and there are lore bits here and there with regards to Johnny and his past. But the best part about this story is its characters. While Johnny doesn't speak, a lot of the other characters do. Characters like the Bounty Hunter group, TerraTech exec, Sin, and Doc elevate the plot further through their dialogue. But my favorite would have to be Sam.
This thing's the size of a bloody city block, which is, I believe, half the size of your ego, sir.
He's your AI companion similar to a Jarvis, whose main purpose is to fill in for most of the dialogue since Johnny never talks. His sarcastic dialogue is just so funny and he sasses a lot and it never gets old. It gets funnier later on when he starts talking back to Sin, who's basically a mix of Sauron and Shodan.
I offer you a choice. Submit to my divinity and live again, or fade into the stars.
Yes, I take it back. With an offer like that, we're clearly the best of friends.
Our protagonist, Johnny Turbo, is a badass cyborg mercenary assigned to eliminate a virus called Sin. There are 3 episodes to choose from, with the first one having 8 levels and the third one having 9. Even though the option shows up in the menu, you can't really select the following episode without completing the previous one. There are 5 difficulties to choose from, and aside from changing enemy projectile speed and damage output, it also changes the stuff you can buy and pick up. Like in higher difficulties, healing items aren't as common, and you can't purchase ammo packs from the vending machines anymore. I personally recommend starting with the second highest difficulty, Serve Me Pain, just so you can have more of a challenge. Difficulties aside, Turbo Overkill's episodes progress similarly to other games. There are times where the game switches it up by allowing you to use vehicles, but generally, you go from point A to point B, all while completing certain objectives like collecting keys, activating switches, defeating enemies, and many more. The game also has an amazing level design with every room being distinct and spacious, making the exploration and combat even more engaging. In these stages, you can collect 2 kinds of collectibles, both of which will always have you collecting 3 of each. The first one are the cassette tapes, which when collected, gives you access to hidden levels with differing objectives, while tech chips on the other hand allows you to change certain aspects of the game, like bobble-headed enemies. It can be quite a grind to find these. They are hidden in the most obscure places in the map, so keep an eye out. Combat and movement are hands down the best part of Turbo Overkill, with the chainsaw leg being the perfect example of this. By crouch sliding, you can easily destroy most of the enemies the game throws at you, and it just never gets old. I really appreciate how they went all out with the chainsaws as well, allowing you to purchase another one for your left leg. And even later, Johnny gets an upgrade giving him even more chainsaws. Aside from the chainsaws, you also have other cybernetics that provide differing mechanics. There's wall running, grappling, micro missiles, and even being able to slow down time. While not on the level of Titanfall 2, the wall running and grappling are competent, and they do provide a palate cleanse for the fast-paced combat. Like the chainsaw leg, you can upgrade these cybernetics by purchasing and slotting in certain augments. Some of these aren't too exciting, but there are some stuff here that makes things interesting. As said previously, you can get a second chainsaw, which makes the crouch sliding even more viable in the later stages. I personally sacrificed 2 of my Cortex slots just so I can maximize the chainsaw's already high base damage. The game also features a lot of guns, like a lot. You start with a pair of dual magnums, but as you progress, you'll start picking up your staples like the shotgun, grenade launcher, and minigun. The one that I think is unique to this game is the ion cannon. It launches a laser beam from the sky, dealing a ton of damage to whatever you're targeting. Aside from that, the guns pretty much act the same way you would expect them to, but the game spices it up by giving you an option to purchase upgrades for these weapons. For example, the ion cannon, aside from sending out a laser, you can also send out this mini nuke that completely destroys anything that's there. Aside from that, another one is the sniper rifle. It has an alternate firing mode that lets you teleport to faraway targets, and it also charges up like a railgun, dealing 3 times the damage. While the mechanic of an alternate firing mode isn't completely new, they are engaging and it keeps the weapons from feeling stale and repetitive. The presentation of Turbo Overkill is definitely on par with its gameplay. The game looks amazing, and it has this stylized low poly art style that just hits different. I mean, look at this view you get from the opening. It just tells you so much about Johnny and the city you're up against. As said previously, they really poured their hearts into creating these levels. From the shady back alley slums to the towering skyscrapers, the presentation here is just amazing. The game has this sense of scale with the first few levels. You go from different sectors in paradise, killing some goons, maybe climbing a few buildings. But after a few hours, you're on a motorbike trying to avoid a giant laser beam, all while the mind control population is out there gunning for you. The weapon animations particle effects also look nice, especially for the chainsaws. Crouch sliding into a group of enemies which results into an explosion of body parts just never gets old. And I think it's one of the main reasons why I just prefer using the chainsaws over the guns. Audio-wise, the music for Turbo Overkill is great. The game uses a lot of synthwave-esque music to go along with the cyberpunk atmosphere. Though I personally wouldn't be able to tell the difference with some of these tracks, I think it's absolutely safe to say that the music is still an absolute vibe in and out of combat. Aside from the music, the sound effects are also amazing. Each weapon has this satisfying feedback that just makes the gun so much fun to play with. Hearing the dual magnum charge up and decimate a bunch of enemies through its smart lock mechanic is just so satisfying. Turbo Overkill is unquestionably worth your time and money. I can't recommend this game enough, and I really believe this is one of 2023's best indie games so far. If this video even got you remotely interested in this game, definitely go try it out. Till then, I'll see you later.
Good hunting, sir.